All right, class, I wanted to go over this first project. Seems like a lot of people were having problems doing this first project, so I thought I'd go in here and kind of help you guys do this first project. All right, so I've made a folder, that I'm going to be putting my project in. So open up Maya. I'm using Maya 2016. Okay, so for those people using 2015, your interface is going to be a little bit different. I encourage you to update to 2016. Not sure if I go to 2017 yet. It's kind of buggy, but you could. Icons are probably the same in 2017, but 2015 will be a little bit different, but the basic concept's the same. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is establish our project. So I'm just going to come up here and pull down the project window. Say a new project and then open it up. And then I'm going to find my way back to where I have, let's see, AI online classes, advanced material lighting. Okay, procedural Maya room right there. And I'm going to select that and I'm going to accept this. And then what that's going to do is create me a project set of folders. Okay. Now I've downloaded the zip file. Okay. Some people were saying they have a problem downloading the zip file. I don't know. I didn't have a problem. Okay. So then I'm just going to tell it to extract it right here. Okay. Put it in that folder right there. I'm going to delete that. I don't need the zip file anymore. I'm going to go inside of here. And since I'm using Maya, I just have this Maya file. This is all I need. So I'm just going to copy that. And I'm going to go into my new project folder and it goes in the scenes folder and I'm going to paste it there. Okay. All right. So then I need to set this to point to the project folder. So you go set project right here and you set the folder that you're going to be using, hit set. And now when I go file, open the scene, it's going to be looking in that scenes folder and there is the file. Okay. So I was going to open that up. Now, some people were telling me they were having problems opening the file. I don't have problems opening the file. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. I don't know who the person is that did this room. Okay. But it's huge. Okay. So to me, the first thing I'd want to do is to get it down to the right scale. Scale is not a problem if you're not using physical based rendering, but I can tell you, physical based rendering is what everybody uses now. Okay. So, whether they're using the top renderers, are like Arnold or V-Ray, RenderMan, Mental Ray, those are all physical based renderers. Even the gaming engines now, Unity has a physical based renderer in it. Unreal Engine has a physical based render in it. So I would not use physical based renders. Okay. Max's scanline render is not a physical base. Maya's base render is not physical base. If you're not doing physical base, then you don't have to have things to scale because it's not you're not really trying to create things to look photorealistic. You're just trying to create stylized stuff. But even stylized stuff nowadays, like for Disney or Pixar or Blue Sky, they're all using physical based rendering. So to me, everybody needs to switch over and get used to using physical based rendering. Okay. That means doing things like using shaders like blends and Lamberts and Fongs. These are not physical based. None of these shaders are going to give you a realistic look. Okay. You need to my point of view, you need to get away from these. Okay. These are like old. These are like 10 years old. Get away from these. You need to be in here to Mental Ray. It doesn't have to be Mental Ray. It could be another physical based render. Arnold has its own materials. RenderMan has its own materials. Mental Ray is what we're going to be doing. So we got a Mental Ray and here's our materials in Mental Ray. Okay. This one right here, Mia Material X, that's the go-to one. That's your base shader right there. That's the one everybody should be using. Now, I got some other ones in here, but this is kind of your go-to shader. This is the one I would use, okay? All right, so first thing we want to do is kind of get this where we can use this, okay? So one of the problems you're going to get into is if we pick this whole thing and then we need to scale it, okay? So if we come over here to scale, everything scales to its own center, okay, which is not what we want. So the first thing we're going to have to do is group this, okay? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to go up here to edit, and you're going to pull down to group, but we just don't want to click on group because we want to come in here and play with the settings. Anytime you have these little boxes over here on the right, you have settings in here. So we can click on this to go to the settings. Now the default is to parent all the stuff together, which is what we want, and to put a pivot in the center, okay? That's okay for a lot of things, but this is already sitting on the floor, so we want our pivot on the origin, which is down on the floor, okay? So then we group all these together, okay? Now, before I do that, though, I want to get a measuring tool in here so I know how big everything is. So I'm going to go from the front, okay? F on the keyboard is focus for bringing it in, and we want to put a measuring tool in here. So we're going to go create, okay, measuring tool, a distance tool. Then you're clicking where you want the base to be, and then you click where you want the top to be, and it'll put a measuring tool in here. Now, if you come over here and get your lister over here, okay, and I'm going to go back from the front. These locators are the little pieces at the top and bottom. So mine's not completely straight, so I'm going to pick the locator at the top and pull it over so this is a little more straight. Now, default in Maya is centimeters, and so I don't know, I live in the United States and we measure things in inches, so I have no idea how much 2,067 centimeters is, okay? So what I'm going to do is turn it on to feet, okay, for this part of it. So if we go to Windows and we go to our settings and preferences, go over to preferences, okay, and then we click on settings. Right here is where you'll see this is in centimeters. I'm going to change this to feet for right now, okay. I can change it back to centimeters in a minute, but I'm going to leave it at that right now. And now I can see that, okay, this is what I'm familiar with. This is 67 feet tall, okay. That room is way, 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 way too tall, okay? So I want to pick everything, okay? And then we're going to do what I said before. We're going to come up here and we're going to, under edits, group with origin, okay? And now when I come over here to scale, it'll scale right to the origin. It's scaling this measuring tool at the same time. And so I can scale it down until I get it approximately around 8-9 feet. A normal room is about 8 feet tall. So something about like that is fine. Okay. And because of the way I did it, it's scaling on the ground. So everything's still on the ground. Now that I've got this, to the size that I want it, I no longer need the group. So I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to click ungroup. Okay. And then I no longer need this measuring tool. So I'm going to delete it. Okay. It's the distance tool and the little locators. We'll delete that. We don't need that anymore. Okay. Now, one of the things that you have to kind of just know, and you guys don't because you're newbies. Oh man, we missed a piece. All right. Let me back up. Somehow it didn't grab that piece. Do that again. Okay, somewhere around there. Okay, and then edits, ungroup, pick by pieces, delete those. Okay. Now, one of the things that happens though is when you're doing this, okay, if we go over here to our transform attributes, you can see there's a scale built into it now. Okay, so it understood the scale. We want to bake that out. We want it to think that it's this correct scale and that we've not scaled it. So by picking it, all you got to do is go to modify, reset transformations, and I'm going to click my little box here, and I only want scale. By default, this will have translation, which is moving it, its position, rotation, scale. I didn't move it or rotate or anything. All I want to do is reset the scale. So I want you to watch what happens, that as soon as I click this, this will go to 1. See, it fixed it. And we can do all of it at the same time. So we can pick all of this, okay? Freeze the transformations, okay? And now when I click on any one of these, it'll say that it's 1 on the scale, which is what we want, okay? All right, so now would be a good time to save this, okay? So save scene as, okay? Now, I'm saving these as ASCII files, not binary files, okay? And here's the difference. A binary file is not backwards and forwards compatible, which means that if you save it as a binary, okay, and it's 2016 and you're dealing with a client or you're collaborating with somebody and they're using Maya 2015 and you send it to them a file as a binary, they couldn't open it, okay? If you save it as an ASCII, they can open it. Now, it may give them some error messages because there may be something that's new that in 2016 that can't be backwards to 2015, but they still would be able to open and use the file. So I would tell you to get in the habit of saving it as an ASCII file, not a binary file. Okay, so I'm going to just call this one resized. So I know that's the one that I resized. You need to get in the habit of saving often, and you don't want to overwrite your files. You want to give them new names or new numbers every time we save them. Okay, the next thing I want to do is this room is all one piece. I don't know why anybody would ever build something this way, but that's the way they built it, and that's kind of horrible. So I'm going to pick it. I'm going to hit Alt-H to hide everything else. And then the first thing I'm going to do is bust this apart, because I'm going to want to, at any given time, be able to texture a wall separate from the ceiling. So I want it to be separate. I might want to hide parts of this at any given time. So I want it to be able to break it apart. Okay. So what I'm going to do is right click and go to face right here. And then I'm going to pick that piece right there. Okay. That is the ceiling. Okay. So once I have that picked, when you're on your polygon tool, this button right here is to detach it. So I click on that, okay, and then you'll see over here where it said room. Now I have 2 poly structures in here, okay. This one, which is the new one I detached, and that's the original one. So I pick this one, and now I can go over here and I can call this ceiling. And now you'll see it's called ceiling over here, okay. And then I'm just going to hide that one, okay. Control, oops. Actually de-highlighted it. Go back. Okay. All right. So Control H will hide. The speed keys that you kind of have to get in a habit of using is Alt H. H for hide. Alt H hides everything but what you have selected. Okay. Control H hides whatever you have selected, and Shift H will unhide whatever I pick over here. So if I pick ceiling right here and I do Shift H, then it'll unhide that. Okay. So if I want to keep this, I can do Alt H. Oops. I'm still in face mode. Okay. Pick that. Alt H, and that'll hide that ceiling. Okay, I want to do the same to the floor. So I'm going to go back to picking faces. Okay. I'm going to pick the floor. I'm going to detach that. You'll see it makes me right there. So this is floor. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the floor. Now, when you're spinning this around, it can get kind of confusing as, okay, which is the front, which is the side, what's going on here, okay? You've got an X, Y, and Z right down here, so when I have it right like that, then that's the left side, this is the right side, this is the front side, that's the back. Okay, so I'm just going to grab those right there, okay? And I'm going to detach those. Okay. That one. This is the back wall. Okay. And those. And I'm going to detach those. And that's the left wall. Okay, this one. And I'm going to detach that. And okay, that's the right wall. Okay. Right now. Okay, so somehow I named that wrong. Wait a minute. Configuration here. Okay, that's right. That's back wall. Okay, that one's not right. That's the front wall. Front wall. Okay, there's the right wall. And that's the left wall. Okay, so now what we want to do is we've got this all kind of spread apart here, and we want to kind of clean this up a little bit. So if you use your center mouse button, you can repack these together. So I'm going to move this ceiling. Now, be sure that you don't drop it right on top of it. It'll group it. Put it in between. So there's the ceiling. Here's the right wall, front wall, left wall. Oops, see how I put it inside of that? That's what I was talking about. It's kind of tricky. There he goes, in between them. And the back wall. So left wall, front wall, back wall, right wall, ceiling, floor. I don't need any of this here. I can delete that. And so now there's the whole room. Okay, and then I've got everything detached apart. So it makes it easy for me to deal with the room. Okay. So at this point, what we've done is sized everything, got it the correct size. Then we've busted the room apart. So now it's easy to deal with the room. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and unhide everything here. And then I'm going to, right now, I'm going to hide the ceiling. And let's go ahead and hide, let's say, this wall. Be back in object mode. I'm going to hide this wall for right now. This will make it easier for me to see what's going on in here. Okay, now would be a good time to save again. Save scene as. And I'm just going to put a 0, 1. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a 2 behind this and just save these in stages each time. Now, that's one of the drawbacks, you know, of Maya, or a benefit of Max, is Max has got a little plus button down here, which is really nice. You can just hit plus each time to save them, which is much faster. You know, it looks like a vast majority of you guys are using Maya, which is fine. I don't really care what you use. Maya is so much harder to use than Max. Max is a kind of a streamlined, really kind of easy software to use. Maya is harder, which, you know, I kind of would rather people learn on Max because it's so much easier. I see so many people trying to learn on Maya that don't have a lot of experience, and they just get really frustrated because Maya's a very complex software. You do a lot of things with very complex. Well, because it's very complex, it kind of gets frustrating to people a little bit. Okay, so let's see here. Let's bring up the material editor here. And what I want to do is, matter of fact, let's go ahead and unhide everything real quick. And what I want to do is to pick everything, and we're going to put a Maya shader on it. Okay, so we're going to, yeah. And another thing, I see people not naming the materials. Okay, shoot me. You know, how hard is it if you don't name your stuff? Okay, so we're just going to call this our base Okay. Shader. So this is just our kind of go-to shader when we're first starting out. If I can spell. Okay, so let's turn on our shading in here with wireframe. I'm just going to pick everything and then I'm going to assign this to it. So now everything has this base shader on it. Okay, so now I'm going to hide my ceiling and this wall and that wall. Okay. So another thing you could do is, for the vast majority of the time, we don't need to be seeing this node. We just need this node. Okay, so if you click this button right here, it'll just show you the base shader, and we don't see those excess nodes. Okay, this is more like what you would see in Max. As a matter of fact, this whole material editor now was taken out of Max. So this is kind of Max's material editor. Maya's material editor prior to 2016 sucked. Okay, it was really clunky, and now they've got this nice one, which they basically lifted most of this from Max, and it's much nicer to use. Okay, you can see your shader in here. You got all your attributes in here, inside the material editor. Much nicer. Okay. All right, let's start off with dealing with the couch here. Okay, so we'll just come in here, and we're going to pick, as a matter of fact, we'll just start off by just doing a cushion. Okay, so Alt H will hide everything. F will zoom in on it. Okay, now set our base shader aside. All right, so we're going to be making a couch, and you need to decide, what kind of couch you're going to make. I don't really care. I'm going to make mine out of some kind of cloth. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get another Mia material. Okay, now the Mia material that I'm doing here, I need to name this. Okay, so I'm going to call this one couch cushion. Now notice I'm putting a space in here. When I hit enter, it's going to put an underscore. Maya doesn't like spaces in its naming. Luckily, it'll rename it for you. Okay, so I need to make sure this is on that. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I want to start getting my mapping coordinates on these. Okay. Now we're going to do simple box mapping kind of coordinates. Now Maya doesn't really have box mapping, but it's got very similar to box mapping that'll work for what we need. In order to see it, we need a pattern on here. The best thing to use is the checker pattern. Okay. So if I click this little box right here, okay, or I can actually go over here to 2D textures, either way, okay, I can load it through here, bang, going in here like this, or I can just go over here and I can hit checker and I load the checker out here, okay. Where the checker goes, it goes into the diffuse, so you color to diffuse, okay, and then we want to click this button right here to be able to see our shaders pattern in our viewport. You'll see your checker in there. Okay, I want the checker to get smaller, so I'm going to click this node, and I don't know, I'm going to go something like maybe, 20 on our pattern. Come on. And now you can really see that we've got a disparity in what's going on here. And we need this checker to be all the same. Okay, so we need to put a coordinate on it. So what we're going to do is come in here and we'll turn our checker so we can see it in here. And then what we're going to do is go up here to UV and then go to automatic, click this little button over here, the little button over here. Now what this is doing is it's not really putting box mapping, but it's kind of like box mapping in which that it's putting planar on it. Okay. And all we need is 3, which means it's going to put a plane from the top going down. That'll be good for the top and the bottom. A plane from the left, right, which will be good for the left and the right side, and a plane from the right and from the right side and the front and back. And so it'll be good for those. We only really need these 2. And so we apply that and then it's put that on there. Okay. Now, the thing about this, we'll go back to our object mode and pick this, is right here where this is poly auto project, this is that mapping coordinate. Okay. So I'm just going to name this, and I'm going to call this box mapping, because it's basically box mapping. It's not exactly, okay, box mapping. Okay, now the main thing is to make sure when you're doing the box mapping that all of these coordinates are the same, okay? Because if this is something like 1, this is what it had before where we were squashing one side of it. We're wanting it to be a cube. So it really doesn't matter what this number is as long as it's the same in every one of them, okay? Doesn't matter if this is 2, and this one's is 2, as long as all of them are 2, so that they're equally the same, okay? Now, what this did is it created us a mapping, it unwrapped it, and created a very basic unwrap for this. And if I go to UV Editor right here, you can see here it is, okay, unwrapped in there. Now, this is not good mapping coordinates, and I get students all the time think, oh, this is how you do unwrapping. It's so easy. You just click automatic, and there I'm done. No, it's crap. It's a crap mapping coordinate. The only reason we're being able to use this is because we're doing a tileable texture. So if we're doing tileable textures, then this kind of mapping is okay. All right. So that's fine. Okay. So now that coordinate is good. Okay. Now, what if I want to at this point? I could come in here and start making the texture for this. Okay. Actually doing that. But what I'm going to do is go in here and actually do the other parts to this first. So let's get our other cushion. And there's the other cushion. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm holding down the shift key to pick all of these. Okay, and then we can go ahead and apply this to it. And accidentally deselected them, apply these to them. And you'll see their coordinates are kind of messed up. And so now all I have to do is pretty much the same thing again here, project. Okay. Go ahead and change one of these. I think I changed them all to 1 before, just so they're all the same. Okay. And same thing here. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. Make sure you're at object state and automatic, project, and then I'm going to do the same here. All these at 1. Okay, what happened to this one? Okay, so these all have basic mapping coordinates on them right now. Now, the problem I have is we got a pixel density problem here, okay? Now, you guys might not totally understand pixel density, but think of it this way. These squares that are on here, think of them as just big pixels, okay? So when I put a texture map, you're going to see that I'm going to have smaller pixels on my cushions and bigger pixels on the couch part. Well, I don't really want that. I want the pixels to be the same on everything. Okay, that's pixel density, so that the same size of pixel is on everything. So a lot of people don't get that sometimes, and they'll sit there and go, oh, well, it's got checkers, yada, yada, yada. No. Since this is going to have the same shader on it, these checkers have to be all the same. And if I was in a game, then the entire environment, everything in the environment, that the checkers would have to be the same size, okay? And just so you understand, you can't change the checkers by changing the checkers over here. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about in the coordinate, okay? So we're going to go in here to our UV editor, and what we're going to do right now is just move these out of our one-to-one space right here, okay? So what I'm going to do is right now when I pick these, they're all sitting in the same space, okay? They're all sitting in this space, and I want to move them out. So we're going to right-click and go to Shell. I'm going to pick these, be in my Move tool, and I'm just going to move this out. I'm going to move Okay, then you got to go back to your object, pick this one, and shell, and then I'll just move this one out. Go back to object, this one, shell, move this one out. Go back to object, pick this one. Okay, what's going on? There we go. And shell, and I'm just going to move this one out. Okay, I want them out of here because I got to place everything inside of here. Okay. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to pick this piece, and I'm going to pick all of these. Now, these have to be scaled. So what I need is to scale this object here. Okay, it doesn't matter where it's sitting out here. I need to scale this so now these squares are the same size as these squares. So if I go to scale and I start scaling this, I scale this until those squares are approximately the same size on everything. Okay, that's our goal. Okay. That way, when we put our pattern, our fabric pattern on this, that the pattern will match going across. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, all I really cared at that point was that I was scaling this so it matched the others. Okay, so now I'm going to go to object mode, and now what I'm going to do is pick all of these. Okay. It's getting buggy on me. Pick all of them, object mode, editor, and then they're all in here. Okay. Oops. Dang it. Smooth that one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to have to pack these, okay? So now I want to pick all of these at the shell mode, and now I can move these over, and when I scale them now, I'm scaling all of them at the same time, so it's keeping the squares proportionally to each other the way I want it. Okay, and okay, so what I have to do is scale it until I can get this fitting back inside of this box. Okay, so now that couch is all inside of there, which is fine. Okay, so that's good. All right, so now what I want to do is only pick the cushions and bring the editor back up. And now these all have to be packed inside without scaling them. Okay, so now these can be put in here any way that I want. Now, this is not going to be a very efficient, and later we would want to actually the thing that you're wanting is to see how efficient you can be at putting all of this stuff inside one of these squares. So what this is allowing me to do is keep these together on one mapping coordinate, and then I'm going to have this one on a different mapping coordinate, but their pixel densities are the same. Later on, I'll go more into, you know, how you would actually do this if we were really unwrapping it. But right now, what we've got here is these objects are ready to be textured. Pretty nice. Okay. All right. Now would be another good time to save. File, save as, call this an 03. Okay. You guys need to get, here's a concept you guys need to get. Computers are evil. They're evil, and they want to screw our lives up. They want to eat our files. They're evil. So we save often, We don't overwrite the same file. We save multiples. That way, when it crashes, because it's going to, when it crashes, then we can fix it because we only lost the last save, but we didn't lose it all the way back. Okay, there we go. All right, so now this is the same thing that we would do on all the pieces. All right, so let's go in here, and I don't need the checker anymore, okay? So I'm using the center mouse button, and I'm just going to pull off of this and click in the background, and that'll unplug it. I'm going to go ahead and keep this checker, just move it over here for right now. But now I can decide I want to put something else on here. Now, you should be experimenting with some of the things in here being procedural textures and some of the things being here being tileable textures, okay? I hope all of you watched my videos that explain shaders and explain patterns. They basically have three kinds of patterns: procedural patterns, tileable texture patterns, and custom patterns, okay? So as an example, in this particular piece right here, I'm just going to make this like it's a fabric. So I'm going to use this cloth procedural texture right here on this piece. All right, so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and plug this color into the diffuse, and now it's going to show up in here, okay? So now I come over here to my mapping coordinate right here, and I tell it how big I want these. And this needs to be really small in here. You go with, that's still a little big. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but we tell the scale of something by how big the pattern is. We know how big cloth pattern is. We know how big wood patterns. So we determine how big this couch is by how big the pattern is in there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So what I want to do right here is I'm going to duplicate this node now that I've got it fixed, okay, the way I want it with the size. So I'm going to go up here under edit, and I'm going to go duplicate, and I'm going to duplicate shader network. Now, I didn't grab this. I only grabbed these two nodes. These are the two nodes I want to duplicate, okay? So edit, duplicate, shader network, and it's going to make me another copy of these in here, okay? Now, the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to go ahead and put this one in the bump slot. So if I pick my shader here, okay, and I go down to bump, okay, this cloth, okay, so I'll go to bump. I'm just going to center mouse click and drag and drop it right here on the bump, and now it's going to create a bump in here. Now it creates a bump node, which is how much bump you want. So we need to kind of pull that in here. By the way, if I select all of these and I hit this button, it'll arrange them all. Okay. One thing I think is really funny, I don't know, some of these guys at the program Maya, I don't know what they're thinking, but why does it put the bump on the top and the diffuse at the bottom when on the shade of the diffuse at the top and the bump? It's like, dudes, what the heck? Come on, pay attention. It should look like this. Okay. All right. So this will give us a dimensionality to it, and this gives us our color. So now I can come in here and start changing this to whatever color I want. Okay. Bumps need to be in black and white. That's why I don't use this one to drive the bump, because it needs to be black and white. And we're going to change this to be, some kind of a cloth color. You decide, and I know for some reason, students have a tendency to want things to be wild. I want wild colors and all kinds of wild things. And it's like, what the heck? The whole purpose in anything you're doing is to not draw attention to it. Okay. The beauty of what you're doing is when you do something that's so beautiful that you don't draw any attention to any one particular thing. It's the beauty of everything together. I don't want this to be wild colors. Okay. All right. Now, one of the things that we can do is there's presets on these shaders. Okay, they're right here. And I know right off the bat, when we make a Maya material, okay, when you make it, okay, let's go up here to the top, where it's got reflectivity at 0.6 and glossing at 1, it's porcelain, okay? The default to me, pretty much when you pull out the default, it's making porcelain, and we really don't want a porcelain couch, okay? So you can change all this, but they have presets in here, okay? And I'm going to come in here and tell this to go for a satin finish, okay? So I'm just going to replace the controls that were on it, and now it's going to change this to be more of a satin kind of finish. And then I can alter it even more from there. I'm going to take down the reflectivity even more. I'm going to say maybe 0.3. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a roughness to it, okay? And I'm going to go maybe 0.3 on our roughness. And then that's going to take a lot of the glossiness down that's on this and make it a little bit more what I want. And there we go. Now I've got our couch in here. Okay, let's bring up our render window. You want to make sure that you have it set to mental ray. And then we can render this. Now, one of the things that you're going to see here is it's really dark. By default, Maya puts black in the background. We normally don't want black in the background. Okay, so we're looking through this perspective view. So if I pick the perspective view here, then over on our controls over here, you'll see in a section that says environment. And then this is the background color. And what you want is a dark gray. Don't get it too bright. We want it fairly dark, but you want a dark gray so that we can see shading on our objects. And then there's our couch. Okay. You can adjust your exposure right here for right now. Later on, we'll put some lights in here. I usually don't like to do the lights until I get everything textured, because it just kind of, screws things up a little bit. I can tell my bump is way too high on this. So let's go in here. As a matter of fact, one of the things I do sometimes is I will go in here and detach the cloth pattern from it, okay? And just give it some neutral color. That way I'm only seeing the bump on there, okay? And I can also tell you that students have a tendency to put way too much bump on things. They know something's rough, so what they want to do is put a bump on it. Bump, I want to see the bump, okay? From this distance, we don't see a lot of bumps, so you got to be careful about that. Okay, so we're going to turn that down, okay? That's on this node here, okay? It's amount of bump, so we're going to say maybe something like 0.2. And let's just do a little region render here. Region render will really make your workflow faster because you're just re-rendering parts of it. Okay, so that sound looks better. Okay. So that part is pretty good. Okay, so now all we have to do is to plug our color back into it. And that's pretty much good and ready to go. Okay. All right. I think that's all I'm going to texture. Let's go ahead and, well, I take it back. Let's do a couple of more things. Let's do the floor. Okay, I'm going to pick my floor here. And let's make a shader for the floor. Okay, so when I click this button here, it didn't delete the shader, just cleared this off. So I can make myself a new Mia material here. F to bring it in. And then we're going to call this floor. And I'm going to call it wood because I'm going to do wood on here. Okay. I'm going to use a preset. I'm going to use that. Let's go. We're going to go for, I think I'm going to use, this pearl finish. Let's go for that. Okay, so I'm going to put this on it. All right, now I'm going to use a tileable texture on this. You know, I see people trying to do procedurals with wood, and I can tell you that just sucks. I've never seen a procedural texture wood that looked good. It sucks. Sucks. Okay. All I did is come over to Google, typed in tileable wood. I get all kinds of tileable wood. Lots of different things in here. Okay, I think I may go with this one. Now, be sure that you don't use anything that's under 400 pixels, okay? Something like this, which is 1024, is actually better, okay? Okay, don't get anything under 400 or your quality is not going to be very good, okay? All right, so now I'm just going to save this. Now, where does it go? Okay, well, where it goes is in our source images folder, okay? That's where the textures go. If you're loading any textures in your scene that's not in that folder, you're screwing us up, okay? Because that means when you send me your file, it's going to be broken. Okay, same thing. If I go over here, 2D textures, I can pull in file, okay? File is what we need. And so color goes in the diffuse. I pick tile here, and here's where my image file goes. You'll see it automatically, since I set my folder up, it automatically went right in there because that's where it wants it to be, okay? All right, so now I'm going to put a mapping coordinate on it, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and put a planar mapping coordinate on it, okay? All right, so we want, let's see, we want x-axis on that, okay? And then you can move this around, but to a certain degree, you know, it's going to snap to it, and really for what we want, it's fine. Okay. You can always come around and we can change that, but really what we're going to do is we're going to change it in here. Okay. I don't need to see the grid right now. Okay. So here is our repeat. Okay. It's too much. It's square, so whatever we have on this would be the same. You can see this is not a very good tileable texture right off the bat. Whoever said it was a tileable texture was an idiot. And that's where you run into a lot when you're getting things on the internet. See how I can see the tiles in there? Okay, then this is not a tileable texture. Okay, so this is not a tileable texture. Okay, so whoever put this on the internet, they suck. Okay, you got to watch out for those people on the internet. They'll put anything out there. So let me just go show you what I'm talking about here. So I've opened this up in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up here and go edit, define a pattern. Okay, that defines this as a pattern. Then I'll make a new file. We want some kind of big, so we'll just go with US paper 8.5 by 11. That's fine. And then go edit, fillet, and then we change this to pattern right here. And then I go in and pick that and tile it on here, and you can see it's not a tileable pattern. See those seams in there? So these people, whoever put that in here, they're idiots. It's not a titleable texture. Okay. All right. So let's go to, where was I? I can't remember where I was. Okay. So what we're going to do is change it now. Okay. So that was using this one over here. I'm going to go to this one. So let's go ahead and we'll just copy this one real quick and let's go check it in here. So I'm going to make a new file, paste that in. Okay. And then we're going to go to edit. We'll go ahead and define pattern and define this one as a pattern. And so now we'll go in here and fill it with this one. So file, edits, fill, and the new pattern and fill it. And looky there. See, that's a titleable texture. Woohoo! Got us a titleable texture. Okay, so let's save this one. So we'll save that one in there. And so then we'll just come back in here and go back to our file and reload. Which one was it? It was the new one, 5 right there. Okay. Oh, yes, much better. Okay, and let's go for maybe a little bit bigger than that. That's probably okay there. And go back to objects. Let's go ahead and kind of see, and that wood is probably, it's probably a little small. Probably a little small. You gotta learn aesthetics. Okay, let's try 3. That's probably a little bit better. Okay. And we let's just see if we put this in. We could put this in our bump. We don't need a lot of bump, and bump should be black and white. This is not black and white, but it might work because we just need a little bit. Okay, so we're going to unplug it from our diffuse. Okay, that always turns black on us. Light gray. And let's just do a little bit of a test render on that. Oh, great. So it crashed on me. Okay, so I opened it back up. By the way, the file was in my autosave, so I just had to go into autosave and reopen it back up. All right, so we're unplugging the diffuse, okay, and give us some kind of a gray, and then we want to render that to see how much of our bump is on our object. Okay, you can see that's way too much bump. Oh, yeah, it's too much bump. Okay, let's turn that baby down. Okay, so move over my bump node. And let's try maybe 0.1. Okay. And let's see what we get with that. Let's just do a region. It's still way too high. So 0.2 maybe. Man, that's hot. Oh, well, that would help if I would turn the right one. Not filter, value. Way to go, Udi. Okay, what's up? Depth, 0.1. Okay. Well, if I get it right, maybe it'll do it right. Okay, there we go. Let's turn it up just a little. We don't need much. We don't want much because it's not an old floor. Okay, that's a little bit much. I'm going to back off a little bit. So we'll say maybe 0.14. We'll go for that. Okay, so that's good for the wood. So that shows you how to kind of deal with the tileable texture. All right, so let's go in here and now let's do some rendering. Okay, we need to put some lights in here, and people are all flipped out about the lights. So let's get some lights in here. Okay, now, this next part, we want photometric lights. This is a little bit different for you guys that are in 2015, because if you're in 2015, you're going to have a different way that you're going to have to do it. Okay. You're going to come in here and make an area light. Okay. And I have a video on how to do that. But now in 2016, they added a new light in here. Okay. They added a light. So if you go to create lights, they've got a new physical area light. So basically this is an area light that is physically accurate for the exception of its color. Its color is not accurate. So we're going to start with that. Okay. So it'll make a light down in here. So we'll want to move it up and we'll want to scale it up. Okay. Something about like that. And, we'll do maybe 30. And then we'll need to rotate it minus 90 degrees. The line that you can see is the direction that it is showing. Okay. And then we'll want to move it up a little bit. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put two lights. I'm going to put one that's like in the ceiling and then one that's over here on top of the table. Okay, so I'm just going to take this one. And the thing about the light is the light looks okay. Okay, let's go ahead and let's hide, let's say the left wall. No, let's do the front wall and the right wall. Okay, now we also need to plot our cameras. Okay, something like this, we'd want to render this from like 3 different places. Okay, and that was my requirement, 3 different places. So let's bring up our window here and let's go to our render settings. Okay, now first thing we want to do is on our common tab, we want to go down here, defaults to HD 540. We don't want that. What we want is this HD 720. Okay, the other thing is you're going to notice that you guys get some error messages when it renders. You'll see some render messages where it's saying it can't translate something. That's because by default, Mental Ray, when you first turn it on, wants to render everything as 16-bit. You don't need 16-bit. So over on your scene right here where this says RGBA half, Okay, what we want is RGBA 4x8 bit. Okay, that's what we want. We'll leave the quality low right now. We'll turn it up later and we're going to render. Okay. All right, so that's okay. All right, so what we want to do is to come in here and turn our gate on, which is this button right here, so I can actually see what I'm looking at. Okay. So now what we want to do is to come in here and kind of get us where we think we would have a nice camera look. Okay. So maybe I'm going to get one kind of maybe shooting over edge of this couch, maybe something like that. Okay. So then I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click view and I'm going to click create camera from view. Okay. That's going to create me a camera from this. So I'm going to select it right here and then I'm going to click perspective right here and I'm going to name this. So I'm going to say camera and then space and I'm going to say over couch. Something to just describe it so that I know what that one is. Okay. All right. So then I'm going to come back into my perspective view again. Okay, be sure you switch out of that camera view or you will be, moving that view. And so I'm going to come around and maybe do a shot from the table over here, maybe something back like this. Okay, so then I'm going to create a camera from that perspective. Pick it right here, and this is going to be camera table from the table point of view. And then I'm going to switch to price perspective again. And now I want to swing around and get one that's shooting back at my couch. Okay, because we're texturing the couch. So I want a shot kind of back at the couch. Maybe something about like this. So create a camera from that. There it is. And this is going to be camera at couch. Okay, so now I've got 3 cameras in here that I can do my 3 renders from. Okay. Now, what we'll see is that you may run into a little bit of a problem. And when you turn your gates off and we switch back to our perspective view, okay, that you'll be hard to find them. The cameras, for whatever reason, when Maya makes them, they're like minuscule. Okay, you'll see them there. So we'll want to scale those up so they're a little bit easier to see them. And you're going to see some of these cameras are outside the room. So what you're going to want to do is always put all the sides of you want as many of the walls to be on as possible to bounce light, but then you may have to hide walls for a specific camera. And I think that's where a lot of people are saying, well, the lights aren't working. Well, what it is because their camera is outside the room and they can't see the lights working. Okay. All right. So let's just switch to over the couch, and we've got an area light here. Okay. And I'm going to call this one, this is light, and it's ceiling. Now I always name it light first so that it puts them in an order based on it being called a light. Okay. So let's go in here and we'll just do a render from that. Now, right off the bat, students flip out. They're like, I'm not getting any light. And the reality is, no, you are getting light. It's just not very bright, okay, because you're using real world lights now. So we're going to have to go in here and start adjusting some of the lights. Okay, so when we're going from here, I'm missing that wall over here. So that's the right wall. That's the front wall. Yeah, so we're going to bring that one back in. So we have light over there. Okay, so on this ceiling light, We want to go to shadows. We want ray trace shadows. That's correct. And in mental ray, we want to make sure it says use light shape. That's correct. Okay. We want it to use that entire shape. And now what we want to do is start just cranking up how bright this light is. And we'll do a region render. And the reason I'm having a problem is I didn't tell it to go from my camera view. So I need to right click here. We need to be looking over the couch. Now, the other thing is that it's based on a color wheel, okay? And lights aren't based on color wheels. So we want to put a Kelvin node in here, okay? So you click this button right here, and we want to come in and get a Kelvin node. So we go down to mental ray lights. The Kelvin node is called MIBCIED. That is the Kelvin node. So now our Kelvin temperature is in here. Defaults is 6500. That's pretty much white. I'm going to change it to more of an amber color, like a normal light bulb, which is kind of warm. Let's go ahead and I'm going to crank this up 100. That's probably going to be too bright. We'll see. It's not too bad. Okay. Now, another thing I noticed is I forgot to turn the reflection down. So we need to get the shader, our base shader that we created earlier. So go here, get that material, and we left it at glossy. So we want to go in here and change this to a matte finish. Okay, for all of the gray shader that's in here. So it's not reflective right now until you replace it all. And let's go ahead and make another light. So we're going to go to our perspective view, and we're going to take this light, and we're just going to copy it. So Control C, Control V. Okay, and then I'm going to move that over. And this is going to be the table light. Okay. I may make that one. I just probably leave the size, okay. But I'm going to make this one in the blue spectrum. So I'm going to go 7,000 with this one. This has got a cooler light over the top of the table. Okay, so camera over the couch. So we're going to make sure we have camera over the couch. And let's render. Okay, so you can see we're getting some nice soft shadows on everything. Nice realistic look. I did notice that I didn't catch this earlier. When I was putting this, I thought I was getting a pearl finish on this, and it said pearl, it said satin metal. So that's, I'm going to need to change this shader that's on this couch. Okay, other than I need to come in here and start putting some more textures like on the walls and stuff, I've got a nice beginning here. I've got some lights going on. I've got my shaders. I showed you how different to use procedural textures and such. So on our little, this piece here, I need to come in here and get that material and come back and change its presets to, I'm going to go with a matte finish. And then I'll give it a little bit of glossiness to it for that couch. Okay, so hopefully that helped you guys some, that it can solve some of the problems that you were having, like on this couch right here, on the fireplace. I might have done a procedural texture maybe on the top of it up here, and then I would have detached the bottom part and maybe put like a stone or something down in here. Please don't put, a light and try to put special effects and put, like there's a fire in here. Okay, I see students do all the time. That's just stupid. Okay. We're not doing special effects. That won't look right. We're trying to get texturing and lighting, okay? Start off getting the basics down before we start doing special effects and, putting flames and stuff in here, okay? Start off walking, run later, okay? All right, hopefully this helped some of you guys and you can get this project kind of reworked and done. All right, post up questions. You have questions, post them up. All right, thank you.